I go back and forth between hating and loving. Today I woke up from a dream. It felt so real to me, like I was walking through the clouds, and you told me to tone it down. Well, if we disagree on what's important to you or me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Team Self-Love podcast, a show about getting you to love yourself and discovering your self-worth because you're worth it. I'm your host, Lindsey Taylor Mitchell, and I'm here with my best friend and platonic life partner, Evan Wong.
Hello.
So today we're going to be discussing different social aspects of self-love, so like the interpersonal connection and whatnot, which is really important and a huge part of this, and something I learned a lot later, actually. And for me, I actually learned it in yoga, learning about being open and being vulnerable, because I think it's very difficult for all of us to express how we're feeling and to be vulnerable with people and to show truly how you're feeling or when you're down and saying, you know, I care about you, or I'm having a hard time, or I'm upset. So, yeah. So basically, the first part we want to talk about was vulnerability. Please don't get out of this podcast now, because I know vulnerability is like really hard to talk about, but just stay with us.
We got to get right into the thick of it first.
Here we go, baby.
Here we go.
Okay, so what do you think vulnerability means?
I think emotionally, vulnerability is kind of just being able to recognize what it is that you need, whether it be from yourself or from others. And then the next step after that would be being able to vocalize it. So whether that means setting boundaries for yourself with others or being able to ask for help, I think that's a large part of what vulnerability means.
Yes, okay, definitely. I'm going to actually write a blog post about that on teamselflove.com. It's going to be about being kindly assertive, but then basically in the sense of saying how you're feeling, but being assertive in what you want. Because I think that we tend to feel as though if we're saying what we want, we're being too demanding or too selfish, or sometimes we just don't know how to say it. You know what I mean? So you need to say, I feel as though, or this is what I personally need. And the people in your life, they should respect that. And if they don't, then you should reconsider like this person and how they're in your life and why they're in your life, because they should respect your boundaries and respect the fact that you're asking for help and that, you know, you're saying, I can't do this today, or I can't be a part of this project. It's too much for me. And I think with that too, it's also knowing that you need help and kind of analyzing yourself and like the fact that you need help, you know?
Right. And I think the first step before you can get to any of the interpersonal kind of vulnerability is allowing yourself to be vulnerable to yourself, which sounds kind of funny when you first think of it, because it's like, oh, I'm talking to myself. How can I be not vulnerable? But at the same time, it takes a lot of introspection to figure out what it is that you're feeling or to process how you are feeling. So.
Yeah. And that reminds me of Brene Brown, who's like the most amazing person. And also in the resources of teamselflove.com, I put her different TED Talks, but one of them is called The Power of Vulnerability, which I was telling you about a little bit earlier. And so she talks about how vulnerability is so important, but we do this thing where we try to numb ourselves. And she literally says, what happens is, what do? You have this feeling and you think, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to have a few drinks and a banana nut muffin. And then everybody laughs. And she goes, that laugh is a knowing laugh. It's like, oh, shit. Like, you know.
We've all done that.
Yeah, like, oh, God. And then what happens, you feel it later, like when you're sober, and then you kind of like, okay, I'll have another banana nut muffin and more alcohol. And so we go into this continuous state of numbing ourselves. But the biggest part about vulnerability is that it is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and love. And to be vulnerable and to ask for help, you will grow so much more than if you don't ask for help at all, you know, and I think that's really crucial. So you should definitely check out that TED Talk. And I think within the idea of like being open and honest with people, I think it's also in your choices of who you trust too, you know? Because I think that you shouldn't just trust everyone, but you shouldn't trust no one. I think that you need to have your people that you can rely on and say, hey, I'm not feeling so great today, or hey, I'm having this hard like issue, and just kind of be able to express that. And your friends and the people that care about you, you should be able to say that to them, you know?
Right, and it takes a lot of patience because those kinds of relationships, they do take time to build.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think it requires vulnerability on both sides. So
Ooh, that's, yeah.
if you're not feeling like the vulnerability is reciprocated, then maybe it's time to kind of reevaluate how much of yourself that you're giving away.
Oh, that's so true. Yes, definitely. Because I think that everybody's different in the sense that some people can be more open right away. But I think having that balance is so crucial because exactly, you are giving part of yourself away in that sense. But then also you kind of want the empathy, or you sort of want that person to also kind of know what it's like to go through that issue, or sympathize, or have issues they're working on themselves, because we all have issues that we're working on. Like, it's not going to go away, but getting to that state, like, and asking for help is really crucial. And I think that not just asking for help in the sense of like, it can be different things. It could be like just a problem that you're having, like a computer problem, or an emotional problem, or like seeking actual help. Like maybe you have a mental illness, maybe you have anxiety, and going and asking people, hey, like, what should I do? Do you know anyone I should contact? Do you have a therapist? Like, do you know any therapists?
Do you have any experience with this? Or sometimes it's the most validating to hear that other people have similar experiences to what you have, or what you're going through right now.
Definitely.
So I think that's another huge benefit to having that openness and that honesty.
Yeah. And then also like looking online, we have the power of the internet, and I mean, sometimes like I waste it. I'm like just Googling pictures of dogs. Like I just search dogs. But we have such a great tools like at our hands. Like, for example, there's an app called Vent where you can just kind of vent your thoughts. There's also one in the resources tab of teamselflove.com. It's called The Quiet Place, and it talks about how sometimes you need to like take a break and shut off, and it's sort of like makes you realize that we kind of get caught up in social media, and so ways to calm yourself and everything. And then also another blog post I did was about reducing stress, and there's different actual like links of things that you can do, or books that you can read to help you with these problems. And just look online, honestly, just Google ways to de-stress, or ways to help mental illness if you're having that kind of problem. Or Google is amazing. You can always Google if you have any issues too. Like, you have that as well. But people learn from their experiences, and they might actually know things that you don't know. And so outsourcing is key.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the internet is such a great resource. And you might find that how you want to approach your, problems or your issues that you're working through, it might not be the same way that other people do. So you might want to do some more research, find some more resources, because just because it worked for someone else doesn't mean that it'll work for you. And maybe you'll find a different perspective out there.
Yeah, that's very true. I like that. So yeah, and then the idea of like that community of support, and I know we talked about in episode 2 about like the year of you and having that support and everything, but also, through different apps as well. I know there's like group ones that you can find people with similar interests. And so, kind of getting a community going of an activity, or you're into like a certain way, like there's like vegan ones, there's ones for minimalists, there's ones for like art people. There's so many communities, and you can kind of reach out in that sense. And maybe like if you're having trouble making friends, you can make friends that way, and start to build that trust, But, going back, though, about the people who you should trust, like, that's another huge thing. There's another talk of Brene Brown's that I absolutely love. And it's about how trust is super important because it helps you, like, realize who you can be vulnerable with and who you can talk with, but it's the little actions. And so if you feel like you can't open up to someone, are they being unreliable? Like, what's the issue there? Because they might not be accountable. They might not be showing up for you when you need it. And so kind of realizing that, and then realizing that maybe that's not someone that you can turn to when you need help, but having that strong sense of a group of people is crucial. But yeah, so.
I think that it's important to recognize that not every relationship that you have with a person is going to fulfill the same needs.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you'll have friends where you can go out and you can have a great time with them.
They're your party friends.
Yeah, they're your party friends. You know, you guys go out, you hang out, go bowling or whatever. But just because you spend a lot of time together may not mean that that foundation is there for you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And whether you want to explore that with them, you know, that's something that you can kind of tread waters on. But I think it's okay to also have different relationships.
Definitely. I have friends like that, yeah, where it's fine and there's no problem with that. But yeah, you don't really open up to them, which is okay. But if you have those deep relationships, or like you're with your significant other, then, you know, you want to express how you're feeling and be vulnerable.
Definitely. I think that it needs a good balance. Like, you can't just have all party friends, you know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But I also think that if you have every single friend in your life be like, ooh, girl, like, I got all these issues to talk about today, you know? It's kind of, you need a good mix.
Yeah, it's time and place. And sometimes, you know, you're going through a challenging time, and like we talked about that on episode 2, actually, of sometimes you don't want to think about it. You know, you don't want to think about your problems. Like, you think about it, you analyze these things, and then you kind of have to realize, okay, I need to, like, distract myself, or I need to, like, not think about it. So it's good to have that balance. And sometimes your friends can do that for you and just kind of get you away from that thought process because they know that you're thinking way too much about this thing or whatnot. But I think also, like, with the idea of vulnerability, personally, my personal opinion, I really, really don't like self-deprecating jokes. I don't find them funny anymore because, yeah, they're in some ways they are funny. Like, yeah, we get it, haha, like, we've all felt that way. But I think that they have such an interior, like, they get into your brain and they start to affect you, and they, like, having that sense of humor can kind of hurt you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a song that you repeatedly hear that gets stuck in your head. I think that if you keep going on the same self-deprecating joke, that in some ways you do internalize it. So whether or not you originally believed it, the more that you indulge in it, the more that I think some part of you accepts it and identifies with it.
Yeah. And I know it's like, it's humor, it's funny, but, like, I think that maybe we need to stop with it in some ways, or just, like, lessen it maybe.
I think there's no harm in, like, poking fun at yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Like, oh, I tripped, ha ha ha. But if you're like, oh, I'm a piece of garbage that never amounts to anything, then I think you need to dial it back a little bit.
Yes. Okay. So one of my 2016 goals was stopping a piece of garbage, which I kept calling myself a piece of garbage, or calling things garbage, but I'd call myself garbage. And I don't know, I didn't think it affected me so badly, but then I started to realize, yeah, it was kind of affecting me. It was kind of affecting how I felt about myself, and just even that self-talk. And it's taking how you view yourself and changing it. And in that sense too, about help, that it's okay to get help. You know, everybody has different interests, but everybody has different career paths. And so personally, like, I don't know anything about science, and I don't really know a lot about graphic design. So when I had a problem with that, or I needed someone to design a logo, I outsourced, and I said, hey, can you help me with this? I don't know about this. And it's not weak. It's human. Like, you can't know everything about everything.
You can't possibly know how to do every single thing on the earth, right?
Exactly. And also, I think with seeking help, it's also about asking for help, but then listening. Because I don't know what that quote is, but it's like, you take a horse, what is it? It's like, teach a man to, I don't know. It's like,
if you feed a man a fish, then he eats
yes.
for one day. But if you teach him how to fish, then he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
I think what you're kind of getting at, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can ask for help, but it's also important to use those opportunities as a learning experience, right? So if someone offers you help, there's a chance to learn something, whether it be a skill, like, or,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, well, and it's interesting because sometimes you have these moments in real life where you just think about it for a long time afterwards. And it was because I don't know how to shuffle well. And we were going to play a card game. And I was with my friend Christiana. And I had said something about not being able to do it. And she said, you need to try. You need to try to do it because, like, your whole life people have been doing it for you instead of teaching you. And she's like, you need to learn. So then I actually started to learn, and I'm still pretty bad, but at least I got to learn and got to get that experience. And I think there is an issue with that of, like, sometimes, and also being the person that's helping, you need to, if you're that person, you need to remind yourself this person is learning for themselves as well. So you can't like lead them. You kind of have to show a path, and they have to make the decision.
And I think, kind of to synthesize the 2 points that we've talked about, the self-talk and also learning experiences. My previous job was working with younger kids, like elementary school kids.
Yeah.
And so we would do projects with Legos, and sometimes the kids would get very frustrated. And the first thing that they would always say is, I'm bad at this. And I always wanted to correct them and say, hey, just because you can't do it right now doesn't mean that you're bad at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if it's your first time doing something, you're not going to be amazing. Like, this is my first time painting. I'm going to be Picasso. And no. I mean, maybe some people have that natural talent.
Definitely.
But for the most part, everyone has skills that they've developed over time. And so if you keep that negative self-talk or that mentality, or you identify with being bad at something, then I feel like you're less likely to grow and to develop.
Yeah.
So if you kind of change that self-talk to, like, oh, today my painting, wasn't as great as I would have liked, then you still have this opportunity. You still identify room for growth instead of saying, I'm bad at this. I can't do this,
No, yeah, that reminds me of my yoga class that I took. And the first day, our teacher had said, this is your first day and you are new at this. You will never be new at this again. And for some reason, that just made me so happy, because there is such a strong emotion in doing something for the first time and feeling something for the first time. And you can't compare your day one to someone's day 101, because it's just not the same. It's your own process and, like, how you grow, like you were saying. And don't deny yourself of something because you think, oh, I'm going to be bad at it. Well, you don't know yet. You might as well try and see. And just being new and having that exciting feeling of, okay, this is the first time I'm doing something. Just think about that. Don't try to think about the fact that you sometimes I get anxious. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing something new. But it's exciting.
I think, too, there's too much focus on being good at things. Like, why can't you be bad at things? Enjoy being bad at things, too.
Yes, hell yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, that's and it's funny. I think it's good, and it's funny to realize the things that you're bad at, too. And I think that, and to accept it, I mean, I'm fine with it, especially when they're minor things. Like, I suck at board games. I realized that. We would do game nights, and I realized, like, I don't like this. And then I realized, oh, it's because I always lose. But I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm not the best at that, but it's not the end of the world. It's just one thing, you know? Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So, yeah. And so also, like, with the idea of openness, there's a quote, it's be like water, like only the hard things break. And having a sense of flexibility, but then also emotional openness can make you experience new things, but then also like it makes you, I don't know, you feel things more intensely when you have that sense of openness, I think, personally.
I think with the openness, and you kind of let yourself react in the moment rather than being preoccupied with how you think you should react or how you think others want you to react. Whereas if you're open and accepting of the moment, then it's more organic. Not to be like hippie about it, but you know, it is.
And it's interesting because also with that, if you are working on being open, a huge thing you can do is you can work on releasing tension in your body. Because in my voice class, and like they teach you in acting that we hold tension for years from trauma or from bad emotional experiences, and we don't realize it. And so, like, I don't know, even just in your back or random places. And so if you can work on breathing and de-stressing yourself in your like different aspects of your body in different places, then you can get to more of an open state, and it actually will, sometimes it releases some emotions, and you feel these emotions that you've had inside for a long time, and it releases that tension, and then you feel so much better. But having that sense of openness, it's very freeing. And for me, I think that was part of my process of changing and learning that in yoga and everything. And if you want to learn about also opening up yourself in different ways, you can do yoga poses, chakras, which is the correct way to say it. Because like they're like, it's not chakras, it's chakras. And I was like, okay. So got them. You can also learn about different yoga poses online and how you can work on opening your chakras and like your heart, especially, and like that vulnerability. And there's different ways of opening yourself up if that's something you'd like to try. Just a different idea of learning to be more open. But having that sense of openness is crucial, and you will feel emotions, but then they pass much better as well, or easily. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it kind of reminded me of something that we learned about in our anatomy class in high school, how your physical state and your physicality does affect your emotional state and your well-being. Because do you remember we were talking about how if you stand in the power stance,
I think so,
if you
yes.
stand there for like 15 minutes like this, then you'll immediately feel more confident. So there is some merit to, you know, yoga and making sure that your physicality is open in that sense, because if you do that, then you'll immediately feel a more emotional openness too.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, and also just when you're walking down the street, like hold your head high, you know, be proud of who you are and what you're doing and how you are as a person, and just don't look down, because I think that a lot of us tend to look down, and that actually, there are like signs and studies, and I'll link them, which show that when you look down or when you have that sort of hunched over like state of unhappiness, or I don't know, that physical manifestation, it shows and it affects you somehow mentally. It's really interesting. But yeah, so
I think in addition to like little physical stretches or kind of relaxation techniques, I think something that's important is emotional stretches, so to speak.
oh, hell yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, like self-talk.
Oh, definitely. Oh, 100%. And yeah, changing that self-talk, I think, is really crucial. And also realizing that it's empowering to be vulnerable, and it's empowering to be open about how you're feeling, because I think it can be kind of, you're playing it safe when you close yourself off, I think, personally. And being that way, it's, I don't know, it's very freeing, but it also, you have to tell yourself that it's okay. And there, with that TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, she talks about why people are afraid to open up and be vulnerable. It's because they feel this sense of shame of I'm not good enough, or these people won't accept me, which is not true. It's not. And if you're opening up to people that care about you, and if they aren't accepting of you, then you don't want to be friends with someone like that.
Yeah. Whenever I see like someone, a stranger, someone in the crowd, like dancing all crazy or like just being themselves, I'm never like, oh, that person's weird. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yes.
Like, I want to be more like them. Like, what are they so happy about? I want to be that happy, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So I think there is this inner desire to be more open, but
Yes.
for a lot of us, it is that kind of self-talk and that being afraid of what other people might think.
But once you stop worrying, like, the glow up is real, you know? And I don't know. I just think that it's just so crucial in developing relationships in many senses, and also developing that self-love. And how you can go about it is just changing, just changing how you like view yourself, and how you like talk about yourself, and the different ways that you can like actually say these things out loud or write them down. The Way of Gray is another great resource. She actually has videos, and like the intro video is you in the mirror, and you're like, I deserve to be happy. Like, I deserve love. Like, I deserve to be accepted. And it can be emotional, I'm not gonna lie, but it's really empowering to get that self-talk. And yeah.
And it does go back to the whole self-deprecating jokes we were talking about earlier, is that if they can affect you negatively, just imagine how much positive impact they can have if you change that into self-affirmation, you know?
Mm-hmm. And also you can do different things, like keeping a place where you have quotes that inspire you, if that's something that you like. Like, I had made that actually in my Ways to Reduce Stress. I put like a when I'm sad tag on Tumblr, but you can also put in the notes of your smartphone, you know, different quotes or things that make you feel good, or reminders of things like drink water and stop caring what people will think about you, or something like that. Yeah. So just those positive self-talk things. And I think in one of the episodes we talked about how your first thought is what society says, like what society has put in your brain. Your second thought is your own. So even, you know, don't be too hard on yourself. It takes some time and rewiring your brain. And I mean, sometimes I'll have a thought and I'm like, whoa, that's not how I raised you. Like, you know, that Tumblr post, it's like, me at me, that's not how I raised you. I'm like, okay, no, I don't want to think that way. That's not right. Or I want to be more positive, or, you know, trying to get back into that sense. And also just saying like, you know, fuck it, whatever. Like, I don't know. For example, for me, I did a photo shoot and I did not feel my best. Like, I felt like I should have been working out harder, and like I should have been doing all this stuff. And then there were all these people at the beach, and I was like, you know what? Whatever, I'm just going to love myself. And I literally just said that, and even just saying that. Yeah, right. Hell yeah. Even just saying that can help you. And just saying, you know what, whatever. I don't even care anymore. And I'm just gonna love myself, and I'm just gonna do this, and it's gonna be great. And then I did it, and it was good, and it was great, and I had a great time. And I realized, like, you gotta stop being so hard on yourself sometimes. But it's a process, you know.
Another thing that's kind of along the same lines that I've kind of enjoyed recently is the idea of accept the compliment.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
yes. Okay.
If you ever notice how in our society we tend to give each other compliments, but then the response is never positive. You always have to downplay whatever it is that you've been complimented on. So for a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, no, I'm not. It's like, oh, wow, like, you're really smart. Like, no, I'm not smart. Instead of doing that, instead of having a negative affirmation, you don't even have to be like, yeah, no, I'm really smart. You don't even have to do that. Just say, thank you.
Yes. Because you're accepting it. Because then you realize it within yourself, too.
Mm-hmm. You accept it, and then you're not verbally self-deprecating.
Yes. And also with that too, I think it takes in a sense of openness to compliment someone in a way as well. And so that person is going out of their way to say something they didn't have to, and they're being very nice. So say thank you and realize that you are this way, or you are intelligent, or you are kind, or you do look nice. And the best, I think, is also when you compliment someone who also feels that way, and then you have this like for example, I was in Starbucks, and this girl was like, "I love your outfit," or I actually said, "I love your outfit," and she said, "I love your dress," and then it was just like, hell yeah, like this positivity, like it was just so funny, and you get to a sense of like you're just complimenting each other, and that sense of openness is so wonderful, and being vocal about how you're feeling, and or like just the compliments is just major. I don't know, I just
Right. Like, it's kind of funny when you think about how those interactions go. It's like, when was the last time that you gave someone a compliment and your intention was for them to reject it or
Never.
say the opposite? It's like, oh, I don't like her dress, so I'm going to say that I like it. So just so that she can say, oh, I don't like it. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, and also I want you to completely disagree with me in my opinion. Like, you know
Right?
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, oh, fuck.
Come invalidate my opinion.
Hell no.
But I think it does stem from this kind of almost false idea of humility that we have in society, where it's okay to recognize your achievements and your skills and abilities. Where I think a lot of people say, if you do that, then you're stuck up. And I don't think that's the case.
No, there is such a difference between, like I said in the first episode, being humble and then being self-deprecating. And I think that if you are saying like, you should know your worth, add taxes, what they say, of like, know what you can bring to the table and realize that, but then don't go about bragging about it a lot. You don't have to. You just do your work and have the work show for itself. But then invalidating yourself, it's not helping you get far. Especially in this economy, in this job market, you go to an interview, okay? Let's just, for example,
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh my God. Okay. So you go to a job interview, right? And they're like, "Oh, what makes you qualified?" And then you downplay all your like strengths. They're not gonna hire you.
It says here that you implemented a new organizational system. Oh no! I
No,
didn't.
it was a little thing.
Really, the other person did it. My manager helped me.
Yeah. Just give the other person the job. No.
It says you have excellent people skills. No, I really like to just stay out of it.
Yeah,
you know?
no. Like I lied.
When can you start?
So I think having your strengths and knowing your strengths and accepting that is crucial. And so it's about finding that line and being able to talk about what you love and what you do and why you're passionate about it. But I mean, you shouldn't feel as though you need to prove it to people, because I think that's what we worry about, of like, there's for example, a lot of people will kind of say, "Oh, I'm doing this and this and this and this," and it's not anything. They're kind of just saying, they're kind of trying to self-promote when they don't have anything to promote. Mm-hmm. And so kind of know that you have this project and wait till it's done, or wait till it's finished, or wait till you're at that step where you can show it to people and say, "Hey, I did this thing," or "Hey, like I was in this thing," or, but you don't have to, it's something within yourself. If you feel like constantly you need to prove yourself and constantly you need to walk around like you're your own resume, you should feel like, okay, I know my worth, and so I don't need to prove this to some random stranger. But
right. You should be telling people about what you're up to because you're excited about it, not because you feel like you need to be an exciting person or you need to feel like you're accomplishing things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same thing, you live with yourself every day. You see your incremental accomplishments, like how you're going along the way. So from afar, if you compare yourself to others, you say, "Oh my God, that other person's up to so much. Like they do this and this and this and this. And what am I up to?" It's like, Okay, well, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's also because you see yourself every day.
Definitely. And actually, within that, if you were having trouble like seeing your own self-worth, I did the jar thing where you write down, things that happened throughout the year that you've accomplished or great things that happened. And then on New Year's Eve or the next day, you go through them and you see, all the wonderful things that happened that year of, I got a new car, or I was really upset, but I still went to this event. Even that, or you know what?
I made my bed today.
I made my bed today. I flossed twice today.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Gum health, it's very important.
It is. It's crucial. People floss. And so, yeah, just even those little accomplishments, write them down and put them in a jar and see how much you've accomplished. And you can do that, through the jar, like writing it down or having a sense of somewhere where you keep it, or like pictures. Like, for example, you could do even your memory, like my memories on Snapchat. There's like a little thing for that. So you could do that too. And just to see about your progress, because it's so crucial and it's so important to see how far you've come and like realize that you can still move forward and keep growing, but like take pride in how far you've come and what you've done, what you've accomplished. So, yeah. And so just for like the little things, please, if you are, and I'm going to make this another episode of the podcast, like sad cast, depression cast. If you are struggling, please get help. There are so many hotlines, for depression and for suicide and for anxiety even. Like there's ways that people can help you. Talk to someone, even if it's someone like online, like through an app where you don't even know them, the anonymity. Even that can really help you. And because everyone is struggling with their own thing and their own issues, but we can all help each other. And it's a blog that will be coming out this week actually is about how social media affects mental illness, but I think 40% of Americans have some form of mental illness. Mm-hmm. So, just get help and ask people for help. You can even like email us, teamselflovenews@gmail.com, if you're struggling and everything, and we're here to support you. And just asking for help it's in so many senses, like just ask your friends. They're there for you, I think, is a huge thing.
Honestly, even if you feel like it's not going to help, just talk to someone.
Yes.
You never know.
Yeah. And like I said, choose who you trust. I think that's important. Change your self-talk and realize that it's okay to ask for help. And then if you are saying, like, if you are trying to be honest with someone and it's a difficult issue, you're confronting them. When you do this, I feel as though blank. Because I think it's it's bad if you go and you attack the person. You want to say how you're feeling, because that's what is important, and you're asserting why you're upset.
Yeah, and a lot of times we do live in our own heads, and we don't give the other person a chance to kind of explain themselves, or you don't even have their perspective. So if you come in saying like, you did this and you did all these things, then it's an accusatory tone, and the other person's going to shut down because they're like, whoa. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And get defensive, yeah.
Sometimes we don't have the whole story.
Exactly. So. And you don't know you don't know their intentions. I think a huge, crucial thing, actually my sister, Katie, that was on, she taught me this, she was with someone and she used to say, well, what did you mean when you said that? Which I think is so crucial, because we tend to like get lost or in translation, or someone communicates something and we don't really understand what they mean. So, try to do that as well. And
I think the word feel is very important in that, because when you say I feel sad versus I am sad, you're not assuming that as an identity for yourself. It's how you are in that moment.
Oh, you know what I mean? That just kind of, that's amazing. And that's also like, yeah, like the self-deprecating thing of like having those jokes, you know, that affects you. Saying I am sad, even that is like, that's heavy, but I feel sad. I feel this sadness. That can really change how you process it yourself. That's really interesting, Evan. Thank you. Wow. Was there anything you wanted to talk about besides that? What do you think?
Well, I think we've been talking a little bit about like interpersonal relationships and building kind of a community of support. And I just wanted to say thank you to you, Lindsey, because you've been a really big proponent of Team Self-Love for so long. And I think that you've really been like a trailblazer and kind of created a community for our personal friend group and for people online as well. So
Thank you. That means so much
I
to
mean,
me.
throughout the years, you've definitely been an inspiration and like Team Self-Love. Yes.
Hell yeah.
You.
Yeah, and I'm excited because like having that sense of community and getting seeing how people progress, like seeing how you've progressed and how Nick has progressed, it's amazing to see like that glow and like that self-love. It just makes me so happy and proud. Oh, ow, my heart.
Ow.
Oh, I love you, Evan.
I love you too.
So, yeah. Also, a little bit of news. So, the blog posts are every about Friday, Saturday. Just to let you know, they come out every week. So, there'll be one this week as well. You can follow us on social media at facebook.com/teamselflove2. Within the next podcast, I'm going to start asking questions. I'll probably be on the Facebook, so I'll post something, you know, a question about the theme. Also, maybe suggestions on themes later in the future, but a theme or question of, you know, what questions do you have about depression, or like what questions do you have about anxiety, and then you can ask me any questions. You can also email us at teamselflovenews at gmail.com if you want to do that instead. And then just so that we can kind of have a question segment as well, and so that you can feel like, you know, you're getting answers, that practical help. So, and then also you can follow us on Twitter at Team Self Love. You can follow us on Instagram at team_self_love. And yeah, and then thank you so much to Melissa Schiller for her song Do or Do Not, There Is No Try. It's off of the album Misunderstandings. It's on Spotify and on Bandcamp. You should go look for it. It's amazing. She's an amazing artist, so just check it out. And thank you, Evan, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. Yeah, I had a great time. But and also, huge thing, Evan is the person that said, I love you, but most importantly, you love you. So I think that's huge shout out to Evan for that. I think that's amazing and wonderful. But don't forget that you're worthy of love, acceptance, and happiness. And I love you, but most importantly, you love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, guys.
Important to you or me. I will try soon to come